Have you ever wondered why you keep attracting the same painful relationships, no matter how much therapy you've done, or how many self-help books you've read? Why you sabotage yourself just when things start going well? What if I told you that the answer isn't in your conscious mind at all, but buried in the very first relationship you ever had? One that shaped your neural pathways before you could even speak. Carl Jung discovered something that will fundamentally change how you see yourself and your patterns. And here's the thing most people miss. It's not about whether your mother was good or bad. It's about something far more mysterious and powerful than that. Like and subscribe to dive deeper into these psychological insights that can transform your life. Let me paint you a picture. Sarah is 35, successful, intelligent. She's been to therapy for years, read every book on relationships, knows all the right words about boundaries and self-love. Yet she finds herself in the same pattern, attracted to emotionally unavailable partners who leave her feeling like she's too much, not enough, or both simultaneously. Marcus has a different story, but the same puzzle. He's a high achiever, but no matter how much he accomplishes, there's this internal voice that says he's failing, that he needs to try harder, be better. He burns out repeatedly, then feels guilty for needing rest. Here's what's fascinating. Both Sarah and Marcus will tell you they've worked through their childhood issues. They can intellectually explain their patterns. They've forgiven their parents. They've done the work. So why do these patterns persist with such stubborn intensity? This is where conventional psychology often falls short. We treat symptoms, the anxious attachment, the perfectionism, the self-sabotage, without understanding the deeper archetypal forces at play. We focus on healing the wounded inner child without recognizing that this child exists within a much larger psychological ecosystem. Jung understood something that most therapeutic approaches miss. We don't just have a relationship with our actual mother. We carry within us what he called the mother complex, a constellation of unconscious patterns, expectations, and energies that operate like an invisible psychological GPS, constantly directing our choices and reactions. To understand this, we need to go deeper than personal history. Jung discovered that the mother archetype exists in every human psyche, not as a memory, but as a fundamental organizing principle. It's the psychological pattern that governs how we relate to nourishment, security, belonging, and our own creative potential. Think of it this way. Your nervous system was literally sculpted by your earliest relational experiences. Before you had language, before you had conscious thought, your developing brain was learning what it meant to exist in relationship. Am I safe? Am I wanted? Can I trust? Will my needs be met? These aren't just questions. They become the unconscious assumptions that govern your entire life. But here's where it gets really interesting. The mother complex isn't just about your personal mother. It's about how the archetypal maternal energy was filtered through your specific family system. Jung realized that we're not just dealing with individual psychology here, but with ancestral patterns that span generations. Research in epigenetics now confirms what Jung intuited. Trauma and relational patterns literally change gene expression, and these changes can be passed down through families. The anxiety your grandmother never processed, the emotional abandonment your mother experienced, these live in your nervous system as inherited sensitivities. This is why simply understanding your childhood intellectually isn't enough. You're not just healing personal wounds. You're transforming archetypal patterns that may have been active in your family line for generations. The mother complex operates like an invisible filter. It determines what you perceive as loving or threatening, what feels familiar or foreign, what you approach or avoid. And here's the kicker. It's designed to keep you safe by maintaining the relational patterns you learned earliest, even if those patterns are now limiting or harmful. This is evolutionary psychology in action. Your psyche would rather have you repeat familiar suffering than risk unfamiliar joy, because familiar feels survivable. Your unconscious mind treats change, even positive change, as a potential threat to your belonging and safety. Now we come to the heart of Jung's revolutionary insight, and it's going to challenge everything you think you know about healing and personal growth. The mother complex isn't something to be eliminated or transcended. It's not a bug in your psychological system. It's a feature. The patterns that seem to be sabotaging you are actually trying to serve you in ways your conscious mind can't see. Let me explain through a paradox that Jung loved to explore. The very qualities that wound us are often the same qualities that, when integrated, become our greatest gifts. Take Sarah's pattern of attracting unavailable partners. On the surface, this looks self-destructive. But Jung would ask, what is this pattern trying to preserve or protect? Often, it's preserving a deep loyalty to the wounded mother, whether that's your personal mother or the archetypal maternal energy in your family system. By unconsciously recreating scenarios where love is scarce or conditional, you're staying in solidarity with early experiences of the mother as overwhelmed, unavailable, or wounded. It's a form of unconscious loyalty. I won't have what she couldn't have. I won't abandon her by being happier than she was able to be. This is what Jung called the sacrifice of the ego to the self. Part of your psyche is willing to sacrifice your personal happiness to maintain connection to something larger, family loyalty, ancestral patterns, or even cosmic justice. Marcus's perfectionism works similarly. That relentless internal drive isn't just about achievement, it's about trying to heal the mother complex through performance. If I can be good enough, successful enough, maybe I can finally earn the unconditional love that felt absent or conditional in early life. Here's the profound truth Jung discovered. These patterns persist because they're serving a sacred function. They're keeping alive a relationship with the archetypal mother, even if that relationship is painful. The psyche would rather maintain connection through suffering than risk the terror of complete abandonment. But, and this is crucial, the goal isn't to eliminate these patterns. It's to understand their hidden wisdom and transform your relationship to them. Jung called this holding the tension of the opposites. You honor the loyalty and love that these patterns represent, while also choosing to expand beyond their limitations. The mother complex can't be healed through the rational mind alone because it operates in the realm of the archetypal, the mythic, the symbolic. It requires what Jung called active imagination, a willingness to engage with these patterns as living energies rather than just psychological concepts. So how do you actually work with the mother complex in a way that leads to genuine transformation? Jung offered several key principles that go far beyond conventional therapy approaches. First, recognize the complex as an autonomous energy. Stop trying to analyze or fix the mother complex and start relating to it as a living psychological entity with its own intelligence and purpose. When you notice patterns emerging, the self-sabotage, the relationship dynamics, the internal criticism, pause and ask, what is this energy trying to tell me? What is it trying to preserve or protect? Journal with this question, but don't look for rational answers. Let images, memories, sensations arise. Often the mother complex will communicate through dreams, synchronicities, or somatic experiences rather than linear thoughts. Second, honor the ancestral dimension. Your healing isn't just personal, it's ancestral. Take time to understand your family patterns around mothering, nurturing, and feminine energy. What were the mother complex patterns in previous generations? How did your mother relate to her own mother? What about your grandmother? This isn't about blame or analysis, but about understanding the larger web of relationship you're part of. Sometimes healing happens when we can hold compassion for the patterns we've inherited, recognizing them as attempts at survival and love within challenging circumstances. Third, develop a conscious relationship with the inner mother. Jung believed we all carry both a personal mother complex and access to the archetypal great mother, the source of unconditional love, creativity, and nourishment. The goal is to differentiate between these two, developing an inner relationship with maternal energy that isn't filtered through early wounding. This might involve meditation practices where you dialogue with the inner mother, creative expressions that honor maternal energy, or ritual practices that connect you to the earth as mother. The key is cultivating direct experience of nurturing energy that doesn't depend on external relationships. Fourth, practice conscious suffering. This is perhaps Jung's most radical insight about healing. Instead of trying to avoid or eliminate painful patterns, learn to suffer them consciously. When the mother complex gets activated, when you feel that familiar ache of not enoughness or too muchness, resist the urge to immediately fix, escape, or react. Sit with the energy. Breathe with it. Ask it what it needs, what it's trying to communicate. Often these activations contain important information about unlived aspects of yourself or unintegrated parts of your history. Fifth, create new mythic narratives. The mother complex operates through story and symbol. If you want to transform it, you need to consciously engage with creating new narratives about mothering, nurturing, and belonging. This might involve writing, art, movement, or ritual. What would it look like to mother yourself in the ways you needed but didn't receive? How can you extend maternal energy to others in healing ways? What new stories about feminine power and creativity want to emerge through you? The key is that this work happens not just in therapy or meditation, but through lived experience. You heal the mother complex by practicing being the mother you needed, to yourself, to others, to creative projects, to the world itself. Here's what Jung understood that most of us miss. The mother complex isn't your enemy. It's not something to be overcome or healed away. It's one of the most powerful archetypal forces in your psyche, and when you learn to work with it consciously, it becomes a source of tremendous creative and healing power. The patterns that have been limiting you contain the seeds of your greatest gifts. The sensitivity that felt like a burden becomes a superpower of empathy. The perfectionism transforms into a dedication to excellence and beauty. The loyalty that kept you stuck becomes a fierce commitment to authentic relationship and healing. But this transformation requires something our culture rarely teaches: the courage to go deeper rather than faster, to feel rather than fix, to embrace the paradox that healing happens not by eliminating our wounds, but by discovering the hidden gold within them. Your mother complex, with all its challenges and gifts, is uniquely yours. It's part of your soul's curriculum in this lifetime. And when you stop fighting it and start dancing with it, you discover that it's been trying to lead you home to yourself all along. So I'll leave you with this question to ponder. What if the very patterns you've been trying to heal are actually the doorway to your deepest transformation? What wants to be born through your conscious relationship with the archetypal mother that lives within you? Drop a comment below sharing one insight this brought up for you about your own relationship patterns. Your courage to be vulnerable here might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.